Welcome to another episode of Fantasy and Reality, where we conjure compassion and just talk about life a little bit. My name is Laura Dunn. I am a fantasy author and illustrator. And next to me, my cohort, Shannon.
I am Shannon Malone de Benedictis. I am a documentary filmmaker, workshop facilitator, and public speaker on body image issues.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into this episode. We are going to be talking about social media and how we that ties into, like, we're going to talk about echo chambers, we're going to talk about self-esteem, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. So let's jump into it. Shannon, what do you think as a whole about social media and how it ties into your self-esteem?
It's I think like most people, it's a love-hate relationship. I mean, the one things I love about it is I get to keep up with old friends and family, and I get to see things that are happening, and sometimes I become aware of, you know, people who are in far off distant lands. And so it connects me and shows me how we're similar in a lot of ways. But from a self-esteem standpoint, it's hard when you're constantly being inundated and you click on one video about how to do makeup and then suddenly your algorithm is just inundated with that, or you click one thing about someone celebrating weight loss and it's every single thing that's coming across is about weight loss. And while I want to celebrate someone's success, I don't necessarily want to see that advertising all the time.
Right, right. I
Yeah.
feel also, yeah, that it's just it's sort of like magazines when we were growing up, and like this it sort of creates this bubble of people, this snapshot of people, and
Hmm.
most people obviously are going to try to show their best side possible. And therefore it's really hard to keep up. And most of it is just, like, personally, I don't really talk a lot about my, like, things that are negative in my life. I just like to go
Hmm.
on social media to just sort of like have fun. And sometimes I wonder, what does that do to other special needs moms or moms of disabled children? Like, I'm
Hmm.
showing this face that no, not everything's perfect. Personally, I don't choose to really talk about that side of myself. You just open yourself up to, the suggestions, the criticisms, or whatnot. So yeah, it's very easy to forget that you're not seeing the entire person, and it's hard to sort of keep up.
Yeah, with social media, you're only seeing snippets, and these are snippets that are curated by the person.
Right.
Um, Most of the times to achieve the most hits, and so it's highlighting the most dramatic elements. And the thing it's a phrase that probably is disrespectful, but a lot of it, like trauma porn. It's just,
Yeah.
weather porn is a phrase that we use in the industry and nonfiction about people love watching weather disaster footage. It's why they send Jim Cantori to any hurricane zone because people just love it. And I think trauma porn is the same way. You want to hear one story and then it just keeps going on and on and on. And that's just not only a snippet, but it's also a lot of times just life.
Right.
These are just things that are part of life. So it can be harmful and it can be addictive too.
Right. Right. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
just that whole, like, oh, look at that person's, they look like beautiful tonight. Oh, they get to do this, they get to do that. And it just reminds me of looking through, like, maybe like Vogue magazine and seeing these ideals of women and of people in general doing all these amazing things. And in advertising they say you're not selling the product, you're selling a lifestyle. And I think we're just getting down to where we're all just selling lifestyles. I'm
Mhm.
guilty of it too, of course. But yeah, it to me, the self-esteem issues go, have you seen the Black Mirror episode Nosedive, where I think it was Bryce Dallas Howard?
No, I didn't see that one. No.
Everybody, your whole
Yeah.
world went by, people
Yeah.
rated you. And it's
Uh,
a great metaphor for social media. It's just everything's about the likes, who likes it, who dislikes it, and
mhm.
how that affects her entire future. And of course, it's a metaphor for it. So they go to like great lengths. Like she couldn't get an apartment because she didn't have a good rating on social media.
Hmm.
But it's interesting. It's one of everybody's favorite episodes. And at the end, she's just like, I could just put this down and just live. Uh,
Well, I think that reinforces, and I know something that you want to talk about is when you get into these things, you'd think that it would really open up the world. And like for me, I felt like it does. But sometimes when you open up that world, because of the way that the algorithm works, it puts you in your own little silo echo chamber, hearing what you want to hear. And that's dangerous. That's completely dangerous because I know some people have said to me, like, do I live in a echo chamber, or a liberal conservative bubble? And I'm like, yes,
yeah,
yes, you do, because of the way that this has been curated
right,
for you.
right.
Hmm.
Um, and a good way to describe this to anybody who doesn't understand what the echo chamber is or how it comes about. Dr. Alexander Swan on a documentary in Great Courses calling that's called Understanding Cognitive Bias has an episode on social media. And what the analogy he used is, let's say you're ambivalent to cats, you don't really love cats, but you don't hate them, just whatever. And speaking of which, okay. So
Well, here, cue, cue cat. There we go. What a good cat.
I mean, good cue, right on cue,
Yeah.
kittens. Um, so you happen to see a funny cat video, you click on the funny cat video. Well, the algorithm now says, ooh, they clicked on a cat video. So you get a couple more cat videos, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, these cats are great. This is hilarious. Oh, he's
Again,
the dog person.
everybody, we're going to keep this real. The reason why my dog is barking is because there's a cat walking on my fence behind. So literally, the cats have sensed that we're talking about cat bias and cat.
This is
My
really
dog
funny. That's
has
funny
sensed that.
because
Yeah,
dog people tie into this. So
of course. Keep going. I'm sorry.
all of a sudden, you're getting these cat, and then on social media, you're getting all these suggestions to join cat groups and cat lovers, and be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, yeah, I like cats. That was a funny video. I want more of that. And then you're joining groups, and what ends up happening is your whole algorithm. You started being completely ambivalent to cats. And all of a sudden, in these cat groups, you're seeing, a couple people might be like, oh my gosh, we hate dogs, like, what's up with dog people? And
Yeah.
then before you know it, somebody who was completely ambivalent to all animals all of a sudden just hates dog people and thinks dog people are awful and that cat people are clearly the best. And I think it's a really good sort of innocuous metaphor, because you can certainly see when that comes in when you have an opinion, and
Hmm.
that opinion is then backed up by other people. And as we talked about in toxic positivity,
Hmm.
you have to find that fine line between who's toxic in your life and who simply has a different opinion than yours. I
Hmm.
think where the danger lies is when people are like, okay, person's toxic, this person's toxic. Look how easy it is to just shut this out of my life. And then all of a sudden, wait, I don't agree with that opinion. Out, out, out. And then you've created this echo chamber where you think everybody else agrees with you and that everybody else is just cat people.
Again, on cue.
Yeah,
Hold on.
thank you.
No, no cat
No,
outside my
no dog
outside
on
my
there.
door. No, I think one danger about social media, particularly on non-verified platforms, is, and I never can say this word right, anonymity. Yeah, I think I got it. Anonymity. Um, when you get to hide who you really are and scream into a void for attention, I think that encourages the worst behavior
Yeah,
in most people.
yeah,
And I know my philosophy for the most part, I'm not saying that I'm always successful because I'm human, but is I have always been like, never say anything online that you wouldn't say in person. It's that's just kind of it. And I think that with with the rise of these anonymous platforms, that it's allowed these in these echo chambers for the cognitive bias to soak in even more because you have people, because they're anonymous, expressing their worst selves, expressing their worst thoughts and worst instincts because there's no repercussions
Right.
for the most part.
Right.
Although I did see something about a woman who tracked down someone who posted something really racist
I saw that.
on her thing, and she tracked him down and showed up at his place 3 hours later, and I'm like, "Atta girl."
You're right.
I mean, yeah, so I think that that's really something that is aware, and one of my philosophies also is when I see something that's just really kind of rage baity or the whole deal is I immediately assume it's either A, someone who's paid to be on there, or B, it is a 12-year-old kid in a basement being their absolute bratty self.
Yeah.
And why even engage? It's I don't even want to engage.
It's
Mhm.
interesting because I just read about, I can't remember her name. It was a performance artist in the 60s who stood in an Italian gallery. She just stood there for like 8 hours or something like that, and
Mhm.
had an said, "Do with me whatever you want. I am the object. I am the art." And she had out a table of things with like honey, roses, feather, but also razor blades, a gun, and a bullet. And just stood there. And when people realized she indeed was not going to move or defend herself, people were horrifying. They were horrifying. There
Mhm.
were different factions. There were people who wanted to like push it to the limit and hurt her. And then there
Mhm.
was people protecting her, which is kind
Mhm.
of reassuring. So
Mhm.
yeah, there were arguments in the gallery and it was full. And I mean, somebody had taken the bullet and put it into the gun, put it in her own hand, held it to her temple, and like just chaos like broke out, but she did not move. She did not defend herself. The interesting part of it is at the end of the 8 hours, she moved and started walking amongst the people in the gallery, amongst the people who hurt her, and they ran because they
I'm
could
sure.
not process object to this is a human being. And I think
Yeah,
that is an amazing way to describe what happens when you're behind a computer. You see this person as an object, you don't see them as a human being with
yeah,
real feelings.
yeah. And I think that is a definite issue with a con of social media,
Right.
and I say this as someone who, and I love your opinion of this because of your perspective as, the parents of 2 children, and as with that is I have been reluctant to I won't go into some of those, like, harsh spaces. I won't even really try to step in because these are spaces as a large person, as a fat kid, teenager, young adult, etc., that I've openly been scorned anyway. So why would I walk into a space where people have the cover of being anonymous?
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So why would and yet I do know that there are people out there who've found real connections. These are the pros. Found real connections who haven't been able to maybe go out in the world or do that, have found these kind of bonds, and I appreciate that. I
Right.
really, really appreciate that, but I do know that from my real life experience, those biases and that bad behavior already kind of keeps me at arm's length.
Right. Right. And it's like it does not matter what you post. It's like somebody there's always somebody that has something negative to say, or like showboating, or like I call it hijacking your post,
Mhm.
which is really like the worst is hijacking of grief. And I've noticed this a couple times, and it's really sad that we even have to have that. But there was an instance with somebody I know where somebody in their family had died, and like a cousin or further out, not close relative posted it on Facebook before the immediate family had a chance.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, and it's just, you know what I mean? There's no motivation behind that. Like why,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just, it might not have been, purposely, but there's a sort of look at me. aspect to that, and there's sort of a just not really thinking of other people. It's just thoughtless.
Yeah,
And it might not be expressly, against them, but it's just thoughtless.
yeah, it's thoughtless. There was just an article, and I read Carolyn Hacks and some of the other advice columns, and yes, I still read newspapers. Um, can we blame the cat?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I still read newspapers and read advice columns, and one of the reasons why, and I'll circle back to this, is is there was something that talked about that someone posted something ahead of time or someone did something, and I appreciated the advice columnists because what they said is it may have been done with malicious intent, but at the same time, it is um, when grief happens, your brain is not thinking straight.
Right.
Your brain is not you may think you're holding it together, and in reality, you're not necessarily holding everything together.
Right.
And so it's a key, it's a good point. It's but I think that it allows for some bad behavior. Now, you talk about algorithms and you talk about echo chambers and biases. In my job as a documentary filmmaker, I am, like I said, I read a lot of newspapers because I'm looking for new show ideas. I'm looking for new documentary ideas. I'm looking for collaborators, et cetera. So I still have, subscriptions to about 5 or 6 newspapers, and that's not including some columnists. I have Substack subscriptions too. And then I'm doing research all the time on Google or looking up this, looking up that, and it messes my algorithms. I mean, it messes it up. My Amazon shopping list is so screwy because of books that I've ordered because of research.
Yeah.
My things are so whacked, absolutely whacked that, I on the one hand, one time it thought that I was like this like outdoors person who likes to hunt and stay out in the middle of the wild all the time, which is furthest from the truth. But my favorite algorithm is, for some reason, because of different research I've been doing, they think that I'm a middle-aged black woman who's a lesbian or at least bisexual, who is into fitness, knitting, and what was the other thing? Cleaning carpets. So it's so I think the point I'm trying to make is the algorithm isn't always right. It's not always right. So it's stuff that's feeding you. It's responding to what you're searching, and it's going to try to position you. And sometimes it's going to bring you down a really ugly black hole, but sometimes it's going to be totally off, absolutely off. And that's when you should have the awareness of like, well, this cat is killing me. I love this. I think this is a riot. Good for the kitty. It's because we talked about cat bias. But I think that that's something that we, the public, need to be aware of and acknowledge that. It's not that, am I a middle-aged black woman bisexual? Well, I'm middle-aged, and I'm not going to say no to Queen Latifah, but I'm definitely not African American. I'm definitely not black.
We talked about all these negative things, and part of the reason I find it so discouraging to be in these echo chambers and algorithms is it really removes conversation.
Hmm.
And we become more and more polarized because we don't let in different opinions at all.
Hmm.
And as I said, that's sort of a fine line. So, one of the things I try to do to handle it is this is my own personal philosophy. If you come at somebody with anger and hatred, I'm probably just going to unfriend you depending on the circumstances because that's how you're going to react to thing and if you're not going to listen to anything else. And I do that even with people I agree with.
Hmm.
I've had liberal friends come at some of my conservative friends and I won't have that. I'm
Hmm.
not going to I'm not going to get rid of people who are meaningful in my life because I don't
Hmm.
agree with them politically, but also it removes the conversation. I want to have a conversation. Well, why do you believe that? You can't really understand how on earth are we ever going to get any of our views back together again if we don't discuss it. We can't just let the politicians discuss it. We as people have to discuss this and not let them, like, we're just puppets at this point because of it.
Hmm. I completely agree, and I think that back to being anonymous, back to um, being loud, you know, uh, having a point of view or an argument or a opposite point of view is not just screaming.
Right.
It's not just yelling. It's not that. It's let's discuss, let's analyze, let's this. And when someone brings up a point of saying, well, this is what the data shows, or here's what the information shows, or here what does this is um then it can't be, no, but you're wrong. And it's like, well, no, let's have a discussion and let's do that. And I know some people are going to push back and say, well, political is personal, and it is.
Right.
It is personal because many things do disenfranchise so many people, hurt them personally. You know, cutting off health subsidies, taking away rights of people, all those things, those become personal. But if we just yell, there's not going to be any solutions to
Yeah,
that.
and the
And
way
yeah,
yeah,
no, and yeah,
the way I view that is, yeah, sort of the same thing. You're removing conversation. I think,
hmm,
okay, if I have a friend that maybe doesn't agree with Martians and thinks all Martians are bad and evil, I might try to have a conversation with that person and be like, well, hey, I know a lot of Martians, and they're actually delightful people, and what you see is not, the whole of it. And if that person then just went, then it's not worth the conversation. But
that's
I'm
exactly it.
often surprised the number of people who will have the conversation when you're just not, as you said, you're not coming at them screaming, you're coming at them trying to understand, well, why do you feel this way?
Hmm. Hmm. I think it's there are a few people I'm friends with who are on the right of the political spectrum, and sometimes they post things that I'm not terribly fond of. And there's some that there have been people in the past who post things that have crossed a line for me, and we all have a line.
Right.
We all have a line. But I also know that for me, even on social media, is I have my values. I have my what I believe in and how I want to live my life. And part of that is having discussions. And I need to uphold that on, it doesn't mean like I throw out my values when I'm online. It doesn't mean I throw out who I am and what I cherish and how I want to engage with people when I'm online. And that gets back to my point of I think that a lot of people see the opportunity to engage in a lot of their worst instincts or a lot of things that they've always wanted to do. It's like kind of the extreme version of, for some reason, people use Halloween to dress as trashy as they've always wanted to, or like I will only wear this dress on because this makes me feel really sexy, but only on Halloween. I'm like, well, you can dress that way anytime if you want, if that makes you feel better, but and maybe just don't put the line slutty in front of it. Maybe it's just you want to be feel sexy on this day and feel sexy on other days, not in a maid outfit. So I think that's something that people hopefully would get more self-aware about. Yeah. Yeah. So, so are we good on this topic? Yeah.
This topic, unless you know nothing else.
Nope. So where can people find you, my dear?
Okay, at themagiclocker.com is my website. My books, The Magic Locker, The Witch's Curse, and The Magic Locker, The Disappearing Cabin, are available on Amazon through paperback and Kindle. And you?
Fantastic. And I am Shannon Malone de Benedictis. You can find me at paddlingcreative.com. You can book appointments with me as well as see some of my work, read some of my essays, and just find out exactly what I'm doing every week. Okay? Okay. Until next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye.